right. Well, as I live and breathe, we are chatting with Dean Devlin and Jonathan Glassner. I'm so excited. We are talking about the finale of Sci-Fi's The Ark, which premieres October 2nd. Nice to meet both of you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. You too.
Yes, well, I am huge fans of both of yours, Independence Day, Stargate, SG-1. I'm surprised. I'm 50 years old, so like you're in the pocket with that popularity. We've had cast members on from both Stargate and Stargate 1, so I'm excited to talk about the arc, though. It's very special. We'll start with you, Dean, and then Jonathan, drop down to you. So we've got the season finale, no spoilers here, but talk about the process of creating a season finale, how you wrap up storylines, and also provide fan service and leave us on the hook, but also decide how you're going to resolve certain plot points. Again, no spoilers, but just interested to know in that process.
Well, one of the things when Jonathan and I worked together on a previous series called The Outpost, we talked a lot about season finales, and I'm I'm a big believer in making sure that the meal feels like a complete meal. And I know that sometimes people want to lean really, really heavily on the cliffhanger, and I like a good cliffhanger, but to me, I also want to make sure that I got a full meal, that I felt like watching every episode of a season paid off. And at the end, I feel like, oh, that was a great full season. And that's something that Jonathan and I always really try to do is to complete the story of the season and then give enough of a cliffhanger to get you to come back next season.
Yes, yes. Jonathan, I would love to hear your thoughts on this as an addendum to what Dean just said.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really a challenge when you're doing an ensemble cast like this, where we have so many characters and so many different storylines going on that we want to resolve, but not resolve completely because we want to be able to keep going. So, like Dean said, I mean, in the macro, we want to complete the meal, but on the case of a show like this, you want to complete the meal for a lot of different storylines and a lot of different people. And so we really kind of charted out when we start a season, we charted out for the whole arc of the 10 episodes or the 12 episodes. Um, and so that's what we did on this one. We kind of knew where we were going all along.
Yeah, well, we've had several cast members on throughout the two seasons, and all of them say the same thing, and each season just gets better and better. Dean, I'm interested to know what was it about this story, and again, the same for you, Jonathan, like the process of bringing this to life, from story to script to screen. And with what time we have available to discuss it, I could talk to you for hours about it, but I think it's interesting to decide, how you're going to bring another science fiction story to life, make it believable, and all of that.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not just this show. It's literally my entire career
Yeah,
has
both of
has
you.
all. It's always been. It would always start with, well, what do I want to watch? And if nobody else is making it, then I got to go make it. And there was a certain type of sci-fi show that I fell in love with growing up. And while there's a bunch of sci-fi series that are out now that I love, that I think are great, it wasn't doing that very specific thing that I loved in certain types of shows growing up. And when I talked to Jonathan about it, he had that same yearning. He loved those same kinds of shows. And so our thought was, can we make a show that's relevant today that still has all the vitamins and minerals of the shows we grew up with that we loved? And so that's really the impetus of doing the arc, where it came from, and what we try to accomplish in every episode.
Yeah, how about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, there's some really great, some dark, edgy sci-fi shows on that I'm a big fan of, but there weren't any really lighthearted, fun romps, roller coaster rides, which is really what Dean and I both do well, I think, or like to do at least. And so that's kind of where it came from. It was, Dean came up with the whole series, and then when I came on, we started talking about it, and that was both of our feelings was it's got to be fun. It's got to people have to laugh and cry and get on the edge of their seats all in one episode,
Yeah, yeah, it's nice to have that genre bending balance of humor, but also drama, and wondering how a storyline is going to be resolved, which I think is the most fascinating thing about what you both do is having to make those decisions, as you mentioned earlier. All right, Jonathan, back to you real quick. Um, have you ever thought about, or has there been any conversations about bringing the Stargate universe back to life again? We had David Hewlett on, I don't know, about a year or so ago, and he talked about those possibilities. Or when you finish stories like the Ark or that or anything else, do you ever think about that? Or are you just like, we've told the stories that we're going to tell and we're okay with it,
I
particularly with
think
either one of those?
I think I would love to do another Stargate. I think that it's become a bit of a challenging mess from a business perspective.
Sure.
The ownership of the property has moved from one company to another company to another company to another company. None of the companies seem to know, what they have, and um, but I think it would be great. In fact, I think it'd be a lot of fun to do with Dean, the guy who did the movie and the guy who did the series, doing it together. But it's not in my hands. It's in some, boardrooms. It's right now, I
Yeah,
think,
such is life,
about
I
whether it ever
guess.
happens.
One guy can hope, I guess.
Yes.
Dean, how about you? Just as we wrap here, like highlights for you from these past couple seasons of this show, The Ark, that just really stand out to you. We have about probably less than a minute left. No pressure.
Well, the big standout for me are the performances of these wonderful actors. You cast people and you hope that you've cast it well. And obviously, in the first few episodes, they were doing everything I had hoped. But then, as Jonathan kept developing the show to be more and more challenging for these characters with more and more twists and turns, it really, pushed the boundaries of what these actors can do. And then watching them surprise us, watching them deepen out the characters, watching them bring humor, that's always the fun I'm involved with the script, and I've read the script before we start shooting, and then you watch the performances and go, oh, well, that I wasn't expecting that, or oh, that's a whole new part of this that I never thought of before. And then, of course, then we talk about, well, maybe in the next script we should deal with that because the way they looked at each other in that scene. So for me, just watching these performances, watching our actors continue to grow as artists, that's really been the most fun and surprising part for me.
Yeah, well, they've all been so wonderful. Reece, I mean, just everybody that we've had over the last couple seasons. Congratulations to both of you. This is so awesome.
Thank
I'm a
you.
huge fan. Absolutely, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's been a pure pleasure and honor. This show is great, and here's to hopefully many more seasons and whatever else you might have up your sleeve story wise. Yeah, thank you both so much. It's been a pleasure, Dean, Jonathan. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for
Thank
spending
you.
time with us today.
Absolutely, thank you.